There is an animal in the ocean that can solve a problem no other creature on Earth has fully cracked. It has no bones, no armor, no claws, no size to intimidate anything, and yet it has survived for over 500 million years. Meet the cuttlefish. Not a fish, not an octopus, something stranger than both. A soft bodied, 10-armed creature that looks almost unremarkable sitting still until it moves. In under 1 second, a cuttlefish can read the surface beneath it, the color, the texture, the exact pattern of light and shadow, and become it. Not approximately, not roughly, exactly. Scientists have watched one settle onto sand and disappear, drift onto broken shell and disappear again, pass a rock and shift mid-movement to match the shadow on the other side. And here is the part that should stop you cold. Cuttlefish are completely colorblind. They cannot see the colors they are copying, and yet the camouflage works every time on every surface in waters all over the world, which means something inside this animal is solving a problem in real time that even our best technology struggles to replicate. That is not instinct, that is not reflex, that is a mind at work, and the camouflage is just the beginning, because the more scientists study cuttlefish, the stranger the picture gets, and the harder it becomes to explain exactly what kind of intelligence is running underneath that shifting skin. In this video, we're going to find out. Beneath quiet coastal shallows, where light filters in soft layers, a different kind of body drifts into view. Neither fish nor anything easily named. The cuttlefish belongs to the cephalopods, kin to octopus and squid, sharing a lineage shaped by flexibility, precision, and an unusual intimacy between brain and body. It moves through waters across the world, from warm reefs to cooler shores, never fixed to one place, always adjusting. Its form carries no rigid frame, only a soft mantle, supported by a delicate internal structure known as the cuttlebone, a porous spine that manages buoyancy with subtle control. Some remain small enough to rest in a palm, others extend beyond half a meter, their presence quiet yet unmistakable. Time for them unfolds quickly. A life often lasts only 1 to 2 years, compressed into a brief passage of growth, learning, and constant adaptation within an ever-shifting sea. Form reveals itself not as a fixed shape, but as a system of moving parts held in quiet coordination. The mantle rests at the center, a soft muscular chamber that breathes, pulses, and subtly guides motion. From its front extend 8 arms, lined with sensitive suckers, while 2 longer tentacles remain folded until needed, then unfold with sudden precision to reach outward and draw the distant closer. Nothing in this body is rigid. There is no skeleton to limit direction or form, only a continuous flexibility that allows each movement to adjust in real time. Along the surface, the skin is not separate from control, but deeply connected, threaded directly into the nervous system, responding instantly to shifting signals. Locomotion becomes a balance between stillness and flow, as fins ripple gently along the sides, and when needed, a quiet jet of water carries the body forward in smooth, controlled bursts. Hidden within that fluid form, control gathers into a compact center, a brain proportionally large for an invertebrate, dense with folded structure and layered pathways. It sits not as a simple cluster, but as an organized system, coordinating movement, sensation, and response with remarkable efficiency. Signals travel quickly, linking perception to action in near seamless continuity. Learning settles into this structure with ease. Experience is not lost but retained, shaping future behavior, allowing adjustments that feel measured rather than automatic. Patterns are recognized, outcomes remembered, and choices refined over time. Among cephalopods, this places the cuttlefish alongside the octopus, and in certain ways, closer to vertebrates than its soft body suggests. Visual information flows in rapidly, processed almost as it arrives, guiding each subtle shift without delay. Beneath the surface, thought moves quietly, not as something separate from the body, but as a constant presence within it. Light arrives to the cuttlefish not as color, but as structure, direction, and subtle variation. Its pupils form a distinct W shape, narrowing and widening in a way that sharpens contrast across shifting brightness. Edges become clearer, boundaries more defined, even as the surrounding water scatters and softens what passes through it. Within this view, polarization emerges as a quiet layer, patterns carried in the angle of light itself. Surfaces reflect differently, bodies reveal hidden signals, and movement leaves traces that do not rely on hue. It is a way of seeing that gathers information from dimensions, often unnoticed elsewhere. Though color remains absent from its perception, the cuttlefish produces displays that align precisely with its surroundings. The match is guided not by direct experience of color, but by interpreting contrast and light relationships with remarkable accuracy. What it perceives is not less, only arranged differently, a world composed of signals that unfold beyond familiar sight. Across its surface, the cuttlefish carries a layered system that behaves less like covering and more like an active field. Tiny sacs called chromatophores expand and contract, revealing pigments that shift in coordinated patterns. Beneath them, iridophores reflect light in structured ways, creating flashes and subtle sheens, while leucophores scatter incoming light, softening and balancing what appears above. These layers do not operate independently. Each is linked directly to the nervous system, responding almost instantly to signals that travel outward from the brain. The effect is not gradual. Changes unfold in milliseconds, spreading across the body with quiet precision. The entire skin becomes a living display, capable of forming patterns that move, stabilize, or dissolve as needed. It is not simply a reaction, but a controlled expression where texture, brightness, and contrast align into shifting compositions that exist only for a moment before becoming something else. A shift occurs the moment surroundings settle into view, as if the animal reads the surface and answers it at once. Sand becomes a field of fine grains across its body. Broken shell resolves into sharp fragments, coral edges echo in repeating forms, and even the soft boundary of shadow finds its place along the skin. The transformation does not rely on color alone, but on pattern, scale, and contrast aligning with remarkable precision. Complex environments offer no confusion. Instead, each detail is gathered and translated, forming an image that belongs seamlessly within its setting. Lines, patches, and gradients organize themselves in quiet coordination, adjusting continuously as the background changes. Guided by visual input, the process unfolds without delay. Information flows inward, and the response moves outward across the surface, creating a disguise that feels less like concealment and more like continuation, as though the animal has become another texture within the scene. Beyond shifting patterns, the surface begins to rise and fall, as if the skin itself remembers shapes. Small muscular structures, known as papillae, lift outward to form bumps, ridges, and uneven contours that echo the textures around them. A flat outline becomes irregular, edges soften or sharpen, and the body takes on a subtle depth that changes how it meets the light. These forms appear and recede within seconds. Smooth skin can become rough, then return again, each transition controlled with quiet precision. The change is not random, but aligned with what surrounds it, allowing the body to resemble not only the look of a surface, but its structure. In this way, camouflage extends beyond color and pattern into dimension. The cuttlefish does not simply match what is seen. It reflects how it feels to the eye, adding volume and texture to the illusion, until the boundary between body and environment becomes increasingly difficult to trace. Movement fades until it becomes almost absent, a quiet pause held within the flow of the water. The body settles into place, every contour aligned, every surface detail maintained without drift. In this suspended state, presence remains, but it no longer announces itself. Many hunters search by detecting motion, attuned to even the smallest shift against a stable background. When nothing moves, the signal dissolves. The cuttlefish holds this absence carefully, maintaining posture with subtle muscular control, resisting the natural pull to adjust or reposition. Time stretches within this stillness, fins quiet, limbs rest, and even the smallest flicker is withheld. What remains is a form that belongs so completely to its surroundings that attention passes over it without pause. Here, survival is not achieved through speed or force, but through restraint, a deliberate choice to become part of the scene by allowing nothing to break its quiet continuity. From stillness, a quiet calculation unfolds, distance measured without visible motion. The cuttlefish holds position, allowing the surrounding scene to settle into place, every detail aligned with its presence. Nearby, small movements pass through the water, subtle and unguarded, carried by routine rather than awareness. Approach happens without approach. The body remains where it is, yet the space between predator and prey is understood with remarkable clarity. Depth, angle, and timing resolve into a single moment, held until it is exact. Then, without warning, the two feeding tentacles release. They extend forward with sudden speed, precise and direct, closing the distance in an instant. Suckers make contact, and the movement resolves as quickly as it began. There is no excess, no repeated attempt. Each strike is shaped by careful judgment, where success depends not on force, but on accuracy. A quiet convergence of perception and action within a single, decisive motion. Between perception and action, there is a brief interval where nothing happens, and within it, a choice forms. The cuttlefish does not strike at every opportunity. It watches, allowing distance, movement, and rhythm to settle into a clearer pattern before committing. Each element is weighed in quiet coordination. A shift too sudden, a position slightly misaligned, or a trajectory that does not resolve cleanly can alter the outcome. In these moments, restraint becomes part of the process. The body remains poised, but the strike does not come. At times, the attempt is released entirely. The animal withdraws its focus, allowing the opportunity to pass without pursuit. This absence of reaction reflects a flexible approach, where behavior adjusts to conditions rather than following a fixed sequence. Over repeated encounters, these decisions refine themselves, shaping a method that responds to variation, guided by continuous evaluation rather than simple impulse. Time stretches in a different way here, not as empty passing, but as something held and measured. The cuttlefish remains poised, aware of what is available, yet not compelled to act at once. In controlled observations, it has been seen to ignore an immediate meal, holding its position while a more desirable option becomes possible. This pause is not hesitation, but selection. The animal maintains focus, allowing moments to unfold without interruption, as if comparing outcomes before committing. When the better opportunity arrives, the response is precise, shaped by the decision made earlier. Such behavior echoes patterns found in certain birds and mammals, where waiting becomes part of strategy rather than delay. It reflects a capacity to balance present and future, to resist immediate reward in favor of a more favorable result. Within this quiet interval, control reveals itself not through action, but through the ability to withhold it. Experience leaves a quiet trace, settling into the nervous system as patterns that shape what comes next. With each encounter, the cuttlefish refines its approach, adjusting how it positions itself, how long it waits, and when it chooses to act. Success is not random, but gradually improved through repetition and subtle correction. Encounters that lead to capture reinforce certain movements, while missed attempts shift future behavior in small, measured ways. Over time, strategies emerge that align more closely with specific surroundings and the habits of different prey. What works in one setting is not carried unchanged into another, but adapted with careful variation. Memory holds these adjustments, allowing past outcomes to influence present decisions without interrupting the flow of action. The result is a method that evolves continuously, shaped by direct experience, where learning remains quiet and persistent, woven into each movement rather than separated from it. Shapes gather into meaning long before any action follows. The cuttlefish attends to arrangement, noticing how lines, edges, and repeated forms organize themselves across a scene. Differences that appear subtle become clear distinctions, separating one surface from another, one object from the space around it. These visual cues guide behavior in quiet ways. Certain patterns invite approach, others signal caution, and each is interpreted through recognition rather than guesswork. The animal responds not only to what is present, but to how it is structured, adjusting posture and movement in alignment with those observations. Over time, this sensitivity refines into a reliable method of reading the environment. Patterns are not static images, but active information, shaping decisions as they unfold. In this continuous exchange, perception and response remain closely linked, allowing the cuttlefish to navigate complexity through recognition, where even the smallest variation can shift the path it chooses to take. Across the surface, patterns begin to move with a different purpose, no longer blending into surroundings but directed outward toward others. Lines sharpen, bands form, and waves of light travel along the body in measured sequences. These displays can flash suddenly, ripple in steady motion, or pulse with subtle rhythm, each variation carrying distinct meaning. During encounters, individuals exchange these signals without sound. A shift in pattern can alter the tone of an interaction, guiding distance, approach, or retreat. In mating contexts, displays become more pronounced, spreading across the body with controlled intensity, while nearby rivals may receive entirely different signals at the same moment. The skin becomes a language that unfolds in light and movement, where timing and arrangement shape the message. Each pattern exists briefly, then dissolves or transforms, allowing communication to remain fluid, adapting continuously as interactions change within the surrounding water. On a single body, two messages can exist at once, held side by side without merging. The cuttlefish divides its surface with quiet precision, allowing one half to carry a distinct pattern while the other presents something entirely different. Each side remains stable, controlled independently, yet coordinated within the same moment. During encounters, this separation becomes especially useful. Facing a potential mate, One side may display structured signals that invite attention, while the opposite side, turned toward a nearby rival, remains subdued or adopts a less noticeable pattern. The effect is subtle but deliberate, shaping interaction without drawing conflict. This ability reflects a level of control that extends beyond simple display. It requires maintaining two visual states simultaneously, each aligned with a different audience. Within a single continuous form, communication branches into parallel channels, allowing the cuttlefish to manage complex social situations through light and pattern alone. At times, resemblance shifts beyond matching surroundings and becomes something more deliberate. The cuttlefish arranges its appearance to suggest forms that carry no threat, echoing the outline of drifting debris or the quiet presence of another animal. Edges soften or sharpen, posture adjusts, and the illusion settles into place with careful precision. In these moments, camouflage is not only concealment, but misdirection. A predator may pass without recognition, guided away by a shape that seems familiar and harmless. Prey, in turn, may fail to register danger, responding instead to what appears ordinary within their environment. The boundary between blending in and actively deceiving grows less distinct. Appearance becomes a constructed signal, shaped to influence perception rather than simply avoid it. Through this approach, the cuttlefish engages with the expectations of other creatures, using form and pattern to guide their responses while remaining quietly at the center of the exchange. Patterns sometimes shift without an obvious external cause, emerging from within rather than in response to the surrounding scene. The surface changes subtly, tones deepen or soften, movements of light become more abrupt or more measured, as if reflecting a state not entirely visible from the outside. During certain encounters, these variations appear alongside shifts in posture and behavior. Rapid flickers may accompany tension, while slower, more stable patterns align with a different kind of engagement. The connection suggests that appearance is not only a tool for interaction, but also a window into internal processes that are still being observed and interpreted. Researchers continue to examine these signals, tracing how changes in pattern correspond to different conditions. Whether these expressions resemble what might be called emotion remains uncertain, yet the consistency of these responses points to an inner complexity, where the boundary between external display and internal state becomes quietly intertwined. From the moment it emerges, time moves with unusual speed, shaping a life that unfolds in a brief, concentrated span. Growth begins immediately, the body expanding and refining itself with little pause, as if each stage must be reached without delay. There is no extended period of still development, only continuous change guided by necessity. Within this short duration, learning takes place alongside survival. Skills are acquired quickly, patterns recognized, and behaviors adjusted, all within a narrow window where each decision carries weight. The pace allows little room for error, yet adaptation continues, shaped by direct experience. Reproduction arrives not as a distant phase, but as an integral part of this compressed timeline. The cycle moves forward with quiet certainty, completing itself within 1 to 2 years. In that span, the cuttlefish lives fully within its environment, every moment contributing to a sequence that begins, unfolds, and concludes with remarkable intensity. When the season shifts, patterns gather into more elaborate forms, unfolding across the body with a different intention. Lines become bolder, contrasts deepen, and movement takes on a measured rhythm directed toward a nearby presence. The display is not random, but carefully arranged, each element aligned to create a coherent signal. Males present these sequences while adjusting posture, lifting parts of the body, angling themselves to control what is seen, and how it is received. Nearby, others respond with their own variations, creating a quiet competition expressed entirely through light and form. No sound interrupts the exchange, only shifting patterns that carry meaning through their structure. Females observe these displays, attending to differences in timing, intensity, and coordination. Selection emerges from these subtle distinctions, guided by signals that reveal condition and control. In this exchange, communication and choice remain intertwined, shaping the next stage of the cycle through visual dialogue alone. Among competing displays, not all participants follow the same path. Some smaller males shift their appearance, softening patterns and posture to resemble females, reducing the attention they draw from larger rivals. The transformation is controlled and precise, allowing them to move within the space without provoking confrontation. While dominant males focus on maintaining their presence and signaling outward, these quieter individuals position themselves carefully, aligning their movements with the surrounding activity. Their display remains subdued on one side, blending into the social scene rather than standing apart from it. In this subtle approach, opportunity emerges through timing and placement. When attention shifts elsewhere, they move closer, completing the exchange without disruption. The strategy relies on observation, restraint, and adaptation, revealing a flexibility that extends beyond direct competition, where success can take shape through alternative paths rather than open display. After the quiet exchanges of courtship, attention turns toward placement rather than display. The female moves with care along surfaces, selecting points where the next stage can remain undisturbed. One by one, she attaches clusters of eggs, securing them to rock, coral, or hidden crevices where they can remain anchored. Each cluster carries a subtle translucence, often darkened or shaded to blend with its surroundings. Positioning matters, as exposure invites attention from passing predators, while concealment allows development to continue unnoticed. The arrangement is deliberate, shaped by both location and the surrounding textures. Once this process is complete, there is no return. The female does not remain to guard or tend what has been left behind. Instead, the cycle continues without direct care, the eggs holding within them all that is needed to progress. Within these quiet clusters, a new generation begins, developing in stillness until it is ready to emerge. Within each small capsule, development completes in quiet isolation until the boundary gives way and a new form slips into the surrounding water. The hatchling arrives not as an incomplete stage, but as a miniature version of what it will become, its body already capable of coordinated movement and rapid change. Almost immediately, it begins to interact with its environment. Patterns form across its surface, movements adjust with purpose, and nearby prey is approached with surprising precision. There is no prolonged period of dependency, only a direct transition into independent behavior. Instinct provides an initial framework, guiding early actions, yet experience begins shaping those actions from the very first encounters. Each movement, each attempt, contributes to a process already underway. From the beginning, survival depends on this balance, where inherited ability and immediate learning merge, allowing the hatchling to navigate its surroundings with a quiet competence that emerges as soon as it enters the water. Paths begin to form without being drawn, held instead as internal maps that guide movement through familiar spaces. The cuttlefish returns to areas where encounters have proven successful, adjusting its route with a quiet confidence that reflects more than chance. Locations are not simply passed through, but remembered, linked to outcomes that shape future movement. Spatial awareness organizes this process, allowing the animal to move efficiently between points without hesitation. Distances, landmarks, and patterns of terrain settle into memory, creating a sense of place that remains stable even as conditions shift. Both recent experiences and those carried over longer intervals contribute to this navigation. Short-term memory supports immediate decisions, while longer retention preserves knowledge of productive areas. Together, they form a layered understanding of the environment where movement becomes less exploratory and more directed, guided by a continuity that extends beyond the present moment. Across the broader family of cephalopods, different paths of intelligence begin to take shape. The octopus explores through touch and manipulation, extending its arms into spaces, testing, opening, and rearranging what it encounters. Squid move in coordinated groups, their behavior shaped by rapid motion and collective awareness, responding quickly within shifting environments. The cuttlefish follows a quieter approach. Its intelligence centers on perception and transformation, using observation to guide precise adjustments in both behavior and appearance. Rather than altering the environment directly, it adapts itself to match or influence what surrounds it. Problem solving emerges through this balance. Decisions are shaped by how effectively it can read patterns, predict outcomes, and respond with controlled changes. In this way, cognition and camouflage remain closely linked, forming a distinct method that differs from its relatives, where thinking is expressed not through interaction with objects, but through continuous alignment with the world around it. Without a spine to anchor it, the body remains entirely soft, yet within that flexibility, a different kind of intelligence has taken shape. There is no rigid frame to organize movement or support a centralized structure in the way vertebrates rely on. Instead, control emerges through distributed systems, where coordination flows through tissue that bends, folds, and reshapes itself continuously. This form of intelligence did not follow the path seen in animals with backbones. It developed along a separate line, guided by different constraints and possibilities. Perception, decision-making, and response are integrated directly into a body that is always changing, allowing thought to express itself through fluid adaptation rather than fixed structure. What results is a reminder that complexity is not tied to any single design. The absence of bones does not limit capability, but opens an alternative route where sophisticated behavior arises from softness, flexibility, and constant adjustment within the living form. Observation begins in controlled spaces, where variables can be adjusted and responses carefully recorded. In laboratory settings, researchers present tasks that reveal how the cuttlefish learns, chooses, and adapts, tracing patterns that would otherwise remain hidden. Each result adds to a growing picture, shaped by repetition and close attention. Beyond these settings, field observations follow the animal within its natural range, where behavior unfolds without constraint. Here, complexity increases, as changing conditions and unpredictable interactions make patterns harder to isolate. The very flexibility that defines the cuttlefish also complicates study as responses shift with context. To bridge this gap, new technologies extend what can be seen and measured. High-speed imaging captures rapid changes, while advanced sensors track movement and environmental detail with increasing precision. Together, these approaches allow glimpses into processes that occur too quickly or subtly for direct observation, gradually revealing the structure behind behavior. Even with careful study, certain aspects remain beyond clear reach, held just outside what can be measured directly. The extent of the cuttlefish's intelligence does not resolve into fixed limits, but continues to shift as new observations reveal unexpected behaviors. Each discovery adds detail, yet also opens further uncertainty. What the animal experiences internally remains largely unknown. Its perception is built from signals that differ from those familiar to us, organized in ways that do not translate easily into human terms. The world it navigates may follow a structure that cannot be fully reconstructed from external observation alone. Questions of awareness remain equally unresolved. Patterns of behavior suggest complexity, yet the nature of that complexity cannot be fully defined. Research continues, moving gradually through what can be tested and observed, while acknowledging that some aspects may remain partially hidden, existing within a form of experience that is difficult to access from the outside. Stepping back from these observations, a broader perspective begins to take shape, one that extends beyond a single species. The cuttlefish does not fit neatly into familiar models of intelligence, yet its abilities remain consistent, precise, and adaptable. In this, it offers a different framework for understanding how cognition can arise. Rather than centering intelligence around structures seen in humans or other vertebrates, it points toward alternative possibilities where perception, decision-making, and expression follow a different organization. Thought does not require a rigid form, nor does it depend on a single pathway to develop. By widening this view, the range of what can be considered intelligent begins to expand. Patterns of behavior observed here suggest that complex processing can emerge under varied conditions, shaped by unique evolutionary paths. Within the natural world, intelligence appears less singular, taking on multiple forms that reflect the diversity of life itself. Beneath the surface, where movement softens and light fades into shifting layers, countless forms of awareness continue without notice. The cuttlefish becomes one example among many, a presence that reveals how much remains unobserved, even in places long explored. Its abilities do not announce themselves loudly, yet they persist with quiet precision, shaping interactions in ways that often pass unseen. Intelligence, in this setting, does not follow a familiar outline. It emerges through different structures, different senses, and different forms of expression, existing without the need to resemble anything already known. What appears simple at first glance can hold processes of remarkable depth. Within this broader view, complexity is no longer confined to expectation. It extends outward, taking shape in forms that do not demand attention, yet continue to operate with subtle consistency. Beneath calm waters, ways of thinking unfold continuously, present long before they are fully recognized.